today I'm joined with a couple of friends. I got Sean on. You guys know him. You've seen him before. And today our guest is Zack, Smokestack. How'd you get that
Jack
nickname?
Of all trades.
I've always wanted to ask that.
So have you really not ever heard?
No.
Okay, so... I have a twin brother. We both had the same haircut. We had the same piercings. We had the whole 9 yards.
Same good looks.
That's a given.
Yeah.
So they knew Dylan. Well, Dylan got a job and transitioned out. And that's right when I transitioned into Wednesday night Bible studies. They had no idea I was Zack. They literally thought I was Dylan for who knows how long. Even though I was introducing myself to everybody as Zack, they didn't understand that I wasn't Dylan. So then they're like, well, this dude's as tall as a smokestack. It's stuck ever since.
So how have you stayed sober during this COVID times?
I work with kids, man, and those kids are like my motivation. Some of them struggle with substance abuse. Some of them struggle with mental health. I'm due diagnosis as well. So it's really cool to see their journeys as young men. I work with 12 to 17-year-olds.
So it's cool working with kids and having them look up to you. I'm sure you're used to people looking up to you. I work with kids too, and it helps me stay accountable, knowing that, you know, if I mess up, these kids are going to think it's okay to mess up.
Well, they should know it is okay to mess up. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's how many times you get up and brush off your shoulder and keep on going. And that's what we really try to teach these kids, because they're not perfect. Who is?
What have kids been getting into these days?
Tide Pods? Tide Pods? Is that what it is?
Tide Pods, man. I can't get enough of them.
You know, most of them struggle with marijuana, alcohol, and a lot of trauma. Just a lot of trauma. Whether that's from their parents or being abandoned or just not really having guidance and just, you know, being on their own path without knowing where to go. It's amazing to see in my recovery all that they helped me as well, as much as I helped them.
So when you were growing up, do you feel like you can relate to these kids? Like, did you have abandonment issues or
Absolutely.
anything?
I had a pretty abusive father, verbally, physically. It was hard because my mom, she didn't know what us boys were going through. She had a lot of anger towards herself. You know, how my mother and not knowing my boys are getting abused so heavily. She thought she was dealing with being abused. She was working so much, trying to put food on the table for her kids, and not realizing that we were all going through the same thing. And, you know, my dad was the kind of person that would say, you go tell your mom, it's going to either come worse, or that we wouldn't be alive by the time the police would get there to protect us. My dad did 16 years straight time, as far as I know, something like that. I might be wrong, but he did the time in prison. And I think that's what changed him into the monster he was. But I'm glad that God took a hold of my mother on April 4th, 2010. She told me years down the road that she prayed that day that God would take my dad away from us. Now, she did not pray that he would die. She did not pray that he would, you know, just disappear. But in a healthy way, her and her kids would be able to move on and have a better life. And it turns out my dad passed away the very next day.
Yeah, so your dad, how did he pass away? Did he have drug issues too, or?
As far as I know, growing up, he always had his drug issues. My parents actually met for the first time. I believe my dad was with a friend, my mom was with a friend back in either Massachusetts or New Hampshire at an AA meeting. He struggled. I can tell you that he had alcohol and Xanax in his system when he died, but his cause of death was hypertensive cardiovascular disease. He had a bad heart. Passed that down to me. I have a bad heart. I'll be 22 next month, and I've been struggling with hypertension since I was 16.
I bet drugs don't help that heart
No,
problem.
yes, sir.
So did it start off with alcohol and weed for you, or did you just say, fuck it, and you just start, I'm gonna fucking rail these lines?
For me, I was 9 years old, and I was 8, 9 years old, and I was my dad's bartender. You know, he told me 2 shots in this glass with this much Coke, and I was like, you know, stir it up a little bit.
Try it out.
Try it. Yeah, of course. You gotta try it.
Make sure it's
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
Like,
You gotta-
it's icky. Is that what you said when you first
No, that was to me.
Right.
My little 8, 9-year-old ass was munching up on that Jack and Coke. That was delicious to me, and that's where it really started. I was like, and then, you know, sips of beer and so on and so forth, and then it was maybe, again, 11 or 12 years old, I might have tried a cigarette for the first time. So then it was drinking first when I had the opportunity, because my brother was 2 years older, and he hung out with older kids. So altogether, between the line of people, brothers, sisters, uncles, whatever, we found alcohol. And I just remember sneaking out at a young age from my brother, getting into the back of cars and people I didn't know and drinking alcohol. It took until, I believe, 8th grade, I think 8th grade summer, going into freshman year, I smoked weed for the first time.
When you were little and you were drinking, because you said around 9, you were probably about my size back then. Do you remember getting super hammered at that age, or like?
No, not super. Well, I mean, I would get buzzed, and that's what I thought being drunk was, because I would just stop there. I never comprehended that there was more to go.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Now, what were you saying about your first time smoking?
So I was at Fame Park in Prescott Valley, up in a tree, and we got stoned, and I didn't know how to get down, so I had to jump out. Probably like
a big cat or what?
Probably like a 12-foot drop.
Yeah, you just had to hang, and it was been like a couple inch drop. When you drank alcohol, though, did that take the mindset off of like the pain your dad was causing? Did you do that indirectly, or
I think it was indirect. I don't think I was drinking at the time to numb pain. I was a very happy child. As soon as I got older, though, and realized, like, oh, this amount of whatever will get me messed up, I was hitting the ground running. I was a full-blown addict, and it happened quick.
When you say full-blown addict, do you mean like you were doing meth when you were a kid?
I mean, I started alcoholic. I was 15 going to high school parties, and I was drinking everybody. Like, shotguns, down and liquor out of the bottle. Like, I mean, when you can shotgun a tall can in like 3 seconds.
You're the coolest guy in town.
Yeah, no, literally, like Four Loko. A Four Loko in like 4 seconds.
This is before your time, but I remember I beer bonked. Did you ever have Mad Dog 2020?
Yeah, dude, it tasted like...
Mad Dog 2020 in my belt, Sean.
Okay, so I beer bonked one of those and tried smoking weed and being cool, and yeah, I threw up everywhere. But after you did your big cat experience where you jumped out of the tree, did you keep smoking bud, or did you just...
that first time cracked open my curiosity for marijuana, and it just definitely took off from there. I think I smoked all the way through high school. I dropped out after sophomore year due to tobacco on campus.
Tobacco on campus.
Yeah, a pack of prime times,
Unbelievable.
a pack of prime times.
Prime times.
It was pretty
Did
bad.
you, for real? It was
not
prime
kidding.
time?
It was prime times.
Could have been like
It was prime
cool.
times. That didn't even click for a second.
I was like, I thought you were messing with me right now.
No.
Is that what you smoke or what?
No, that's what
No,
we
that
are.
was
That's
our
what
rap crew.
Oh, they're famous rappers. In case you guys didn't know.
Everyone knows
Prime
that.
time.
Everyone knows. Already knows that. When did you start getting into heavy drugs and all that type of
Well, I
shit?
dropped out, and I think I dibble-dabbled with what I thought was Molly at a party, Halloween party. Snorted a couple points of Molly, which turned out to be a couple points of meth. Well, I thought I was doing Molly, so I was like, yeah, no, this is great.
Was the
And my
guy
brother-
just like, oh, hey, I got some shit in my pocket. Like, here
No, he
you
was
go.
selling it to
Just
everybody
try
at the
it. I don't know
party.
what it
It
is.
has Molly,
Yeah,
but it was
so-
crystal.
Yeah. And so
What a jerk.
Yeah.
my brother's friend, his name was Andrew, he actually knew he'd experienced meth before, so he knew the pupils, the way I was acting, the mannerisms and all that stuff. He's like, dude, I think you're on meth. So I went and asked the dude. He's like, yeah, I'm selling meth, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, he got into a lot of trouble by everyone else, if you catch my drift. He got pretty beat up that night.
I guess if you've never done Molly or meth, though, so you wouldn't really know.
Right.
You just like, you feel high and you're like, oh, this is cool, you know? That's how I
Right. So
would've
those were the beginning times. In and out of jail a lot, on probation. I kept failing UAs for weed and alcohol. My probation officer told me, you're going to be locked up until your 18th birthday, which was 11 months away. Well, one of the DOs told me, dude, here's the secret. Go in there, cry to your PO, tell her you're a drug addict. You'll get put in A-step, 43-day program. You'll get released on drug court, and you'll go home. but you'll be on drug court. And I was like, what the fuck? What is this guy telling me? Is he serious? So I tried it, and it worked. So I started in the rooms young, and I knew what I was doing drug-wise. I knew what I was supposed to be doing recovery-wise. But as soon as I got off drug court 16 days before, I was totally clean the 11 months. And then I got off drug court 16 days before I turned 18. Mom gave me $20. She said, go get some dinner. I looked at my twin, said, you know what I'm doing with this $20? I'm going to go buy
celebrating.
I'm going to go buy a 20 sack of bud. So I went to brother's house, bought a 20 sack of weed, smoked a blunt. I was like, hey, do you want weed? You got weed? Nah, no weed, but I got this. And he pulled out a bag of heroin.
Yeesh.
Just got off probation. 17 days until I'm 18. Smoked heroin for the first time. And so that right there in that moment started my addiction for meth and heroin, because as soon as I smoked the heroin again, I got introduced to smoking meth. Before, it was always snorting meth. I had never smoked it. Then I was speedballing just left and right. I think that's when acid really came into play. I had tried it before. But for those of you that don't know, I've struggled hardcore with mental health due to acid and meth, mixing those two. And psychosis. I don't know if everyone knows what psychosis is, but it's basically when your mind tricks you into thinking that your external reality, like you're not part of what's really going on. Like you really do think you're controlling shit with your hands. The force is you. And in and out of psych wards, all the way to California, Phoenix. Like I was all over the place. 2017, I was in rehab for 8.5 months of the year. 2 weeks later, I was back to smoking weed. And for me and my addiction, I smoke weed. Well, then it's completely out the window. I might as well drink. And if I drink, I'm going to go do the meth and so on and so forth.
I think, okay, like you were saying about the smoking weed, how you'll start off just smoking weed, and I feel like a lot of addicts do that. They're like, okay, I'm out of recovery, I'm not in a house no more. Everyone smokes weed. It's not like heroin or meth, but I think it tricks your mind and it remembers like, oh, being buzzed is I miss this feeling, and then you're more apt. Well, I can have a couple beers. It's nothing. That's how it always starts with me. Yeah, I smoke a little weed. I could drink a few beers, and someone has Coke. Hey, that sounds like a good idea too. And then you're right back in it before you know. That's why I think it's dangerous to just be like, well, I'm gonna. We talked about this on. Elements not too long ago about reservations, about being like, well, I'm just gonna smoke weed or I'm just gonna drink beer. It's legal, I could just drink beer. But I feel like when you're an addict, you're gonna just do that until something else comes along.
It's totally nuts to me how quick you'll throw everything out the window just in that one split second to get high. I really never felt for addicts. I was always like, I was always torn between, is it a choice, is it a disease? Is it a choice, is it a disease? And, you know, I think it can be both. You do make a choice to a certain point. But yes, you're an addict and it is a disease to a certain point. You don't just pick to love a drug. Once you do it and you understand what it is and you feel that euphoria, I mean, it's an effect it can have on every single person.
When you get on a drug or whatever, it basically will brainwash you. So at first, yeah, it is a choice. And I think we're led into it by, I talked about this last time. I don't think that weed's always been the gateway drug, like how everyone says weed's the gateway. I think it's always been alcohol. We always seem to get alcohol first.
I agree with that.
And then when you just keep going further and further into that, like, curiosity, then you get to the point where you can't pull yourself out of it on your own will. So I think at first it's a choice to keep trying it, but then after a certain point, your brain's tricking you into constantly seeking that drug actively. And how long did it take you since this last 6 months to where your cravings stopped and you're just making rational choices?
Some probably won't believe it. I don't know if you two will either, but I've not had a single craving. I really don't think about drugs and alcohol. I don't dream about them anymore. My life was so screwed for so long on so many levels, and I got so many chances with coming back from the psychosis I was in. The brain damage I did to myself was so severe I shouldn't be alive. And based on, they told my mother that not that I shouldn't be alive, but they told my mother that I wasn't going to come back to think normal ever again. I was going to be basically one of those vegetables that's in the psych ward for the rest of his life. So it's crazy the way you just said. I wanted to piggyback off before I forgot. You said the gateway is usually alcohol. Well, 12 months ago in May, I was in Mexico on an all expenses paid for trip, clean and sober. Well, I relapsed in Mexico on alcohol in the pool, having a blast with my mom. She knew I was there. She was monitoring my drinking. We thought nothing of it. It was just, you know what? Have a drink. We're in Mexico. Go for it. I drank. I didn't get too terribly drunk the first night. The second night was an open bar. I took advantage of it right away. You know, tequila sunrise after tequila sunrise, and I just got smashed. Couldn't walk to the hotel room. They had to have one of those little go-karts come pick me up. I get back to the States, start smoking weed again. And bing, bang, boom. That was 6 months from May until November that I was, you know, whether it was coke, molly, acid, weed, alcohol, meth, heroin, whatever I could get my hands on, I was doing until November 23rd. I was smoking my meth, which is my DOC, and I was super high, super lifted up there. And I started drinking because if anyone can relate, when you're on meth, you start drinking, you're like a powerhouse. You can drink as much as you want as long as you keep smoking the meth too. Well, I ran out of speed and just got super plastered drunk. From what people tell me and what I slightly remember, I was like more than 2.5 bottles of Jack in on my own.
Yeah.
Plus some beer. I weigh 350 pounds, so my body ratio, it can take liquor, but that's just a ridiculous
Well, you
amount
probably
of
weren't eating all spun out too
Right.
that day, so getting that high on meth and not eating and then drinking that much on an empty stomach is.
So
But if I bet anyone could have done it, it would have been you.
there was a stripper pole, and I remember dancing, having fun, and partying, and there's lights everywhere. I just remember having a grand old time. We're house hopping. There was like different parties. We're like, hey, we're going to shut it down here and go to homie's house, and so on and so forth. And the last thing I remember was taking a drink out of a freshly cracked bottle of Jack. And next thing I know, I wake up in the ICU November 24th, about 2:33 a.m. All my family's there. That was the first time I woke up. By God's grace, I was breathing on my own. But I was non-responsive to a sternum rub, non-responsive to Narcan, non-responsive to ammonia, heating blanket, fully catheter inserted. I was hypothermic and just breathing on my own. By God's grace. I truly believe it was God giving me breath, because there's no sign there in any of that says I should be living. I hit my head on the ground, like fell out of a chair. Homies left me outside for like 4 hours. And, 32-degree weather, I did the math. For your body temperature to drop 1 degree, it takes about 30 minutes in 32-degree weather. It was down from a standard 98.6 to about 92.5, 93.
So did your friends tell you what was going on when you after you blacked out? Did they say, this, you did this? And
I was always the kind of guy that if I got super drunk, I'd sleep it off and wake up the next day and get drunk again. They just thought, he's drunk and passed out. They didn't realize I was dying.
Yeah.
And, it blows my mind that God wanted me on earth to do something.
Why does that blow your mind?
I'm saying at the time, it blew my mind. Now it doesn't. It really doesn't at all. At the time, though, I'm thinking, I'm mad because I know I'm about to go to the psych ward. I have to detox. That's what they're going to send me in there for. It wasn't even like a psychiatric evaluation. It was just for a detox. I was in there for 9 days.
That's miserable.
That
Detox is so... Psych wards are so fucking miserable.
I spent 25 days in the psych ward before.
See, I never detoxed it like a real detox. It's usually like a jail cell.
Oh, there's nothing. There's nothing worse because you're crammed in and you can't shake and you can't throw up because there's just one toilet there and all these dudes are sitting there watching you. Oh my God, it is
good
hell.
times.
So I'm sitting there, 9 days in the psych ward. Then I go through treatment. It was a 13-week program. I knocked that out, graduated, got a job. That's when I got hired at Sequel Care. And really just the components of almost dying, legitly almost dying. The fact that I've been in and out of psychosis 3-4 times, in and out of the psych ward 3-4 times locally, 72-hour holds in California, 72-hour hold in Phoenix, like, it opened my eyes huger than imaginable to realize that Jesus Christ is real. He is the one that saved me. He is the one that wanted me to be on earth to help other people, share my story, share the gospel, try and touch as many lives as I can. And that's truly what I'm trying to do with these kids.
Well, you're not only helping those kids, you're helping everyone that's watching this, adults. You help me and Kyle stay sober, because any addict that can go through that, I look up to, you know what I mean? I always have it. Anyone that can beat addiction like that and come back from the dead, literally, I mean, yeah, it's a great testimony. It helps me stay sober. What you're doing with your life helps us stay sober. So it's not just kids. I want you to know that.
Without my church on Sundays, my Wednesday nights, my Thursday nights, I haven't had it through the COVID, and it sucks so terribly. But I know I have my support. I have my people. We all have our circle of how we get through our days. And without my routine, I still think that I would be using if I didn't have it, honestly.
I think from what you said that what happened was you probably had, like with most addicts, had low self-worth. I know I did. And then in this time in sobriety, something happened to where you actually realize that God is looking out for you and wants you to be here, and you're respecting that. When did you feel like you lost complete control over, when you said meth, or was it heroin that really was the heavy hitter? Meth.
My older brother Tyler, he's incarcerated right now, missing to death. It's nuts. He's my other half. My twin's my other half, technically, but my brother Tyler is.
He's gonna get jealous.
Tyler's older or younger?
He's older. He's 24. You know, I was talking to him on the phone recently, and he actually told me, like, you know how much of a piece of shit brother I feel like? They got his 17-year-old little brother into meth and heroin. I was like, yeah, dude, but you didn't ever put the pipe in my mouth. You know, I knew what I was doing. I watched your friends, and it was an influence, sure.
Yeah, because you looked up to him. You looked up. You idolized him, obviously, and you saw him doing it, and if he's going to tell you to do it, and it's your older brother, then, yeah, you're going to do it.
But the thing is, on your brother's behalf, I mean, when you're stuck in that addiction, you're not caring who you hurt. You're not thinking about it.
Just trying to have fun.
But now he realizes that, just like I'm sure you realize you did meth. I did meth with a lot of people I wish I wanted of, or, you know what I mean? You get people on drugs. It's a shitty situation. So now us as addicts, why we're always there for you, why you're there for everyone else, is because that's what keeps a lot of people clean, is like being able to reach out and helping others out, kind of make up for the shitty things we did. I still have a lot of making up.
I'm sure he has a lot of guilt with that. You're actually someone he idolizes now. You know, you can have pride in that. You can have pride in the fact that, you know, you were able to come out of it. Not a lot of us do. You know, a lot of people that die every day from this stuff. And, you know, I don't know, just keep on doing what you're doing, and I'm sure you can help him get to where he's trying to get to be at, you know?
Yeah. One of the main things that also keeps me going is I'm 22 and I can't count on my hands and toes how many people I've lost already. It's sad. It's so sad. And I don't want to have my mom bury me. I want to be able to at least bury my mama. And I know that's sad to think about as well, but, like, kids should be outliving their parents, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's not the way it is nowadays. Like, it just isn't at all, but it really should be. And I care for my mom with everything I have. Like, that is if it wasn't God, she'd be my savior. You know, she never gave up on me. She's always been mad at me for being a dummy, but she's been there for me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But she's never given up on me, not once, ever. You know, and I just see her as, you know, the highlight of my life. Like, if there was someone I wanted to do something for every single day to make sure they're okay, it's my mother.
She raised a pretty kick-ass son.
But you're doing it for yourself, ultimately.
Yeah, I got to, because I don't have a death wish. I never have. But I've come damn near close to playing with Satan and seeing where he wanted to go. And I can't live that life anymore.
I bet especially in psychosis. I've been in psychosis a few times, but it was off Xanax. And there's like nothing different from reality right now than how your brain is conceiving what's going on. It's just as real as everything is right now. And it's terrifying.
Because it's like, there's so much I don't remember, but what I do remember and looking back on that, I'm like, how in the hell does one think the way I was thinking and actually believing it? Like the stuff I was thinking of, like, I can't pinpoint and tell a story based on what was going through my mind at the time because it's so scatterbrained, but it gave me the mental disease I'm stuck with for the rest of my life.
Well, you gotta remember what they put in drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, anything could be
You
in that.
can cut, drugs with anything. I mean, I sold drywall, for heaven's sakes. People snorted drywall. Like,
Did they like it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a true story.
Give me some more of that.
Whatever we had at the time to cut the coke, creatine, aspirin, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? So people don't care when they're making your drugs. That's why it's scary nowadays, because when I was doing drugs, they didn't have fentanyl. You know what I mean? That shit's killing people left and right.
Absolutely.
And ever since I started Elements, like 3 years ago, I became friends with people on Facebook through there. I always accept their friendships. And I see constantly people's timelines. Sometimes I know them personally really good. And then other times it's just friends of people that go to Elements, RIP, life took it too soon. These kids are 18 years old, 22 years old. And like you said, God wants you here for a reason, but don't take that for granted, So.
It's crazy to think. I mean, him and I are around the same age, and heroin was like the tip top of opiates. Like, you can't imagine going higher than getting some heroin. And then now they talk about it like, heroin's a step down, almost like a lore tab, compared to heroin,
Right, I understand that. And that's mind-blowing in itself. How do you... I remember going through the D.A.R.E program and telling myself, I'll never touch meth or heroin. Shit, I'll never drink or smoke weed. And then 2 years later, I'm like doing half of it.
Well, and I hear that people are they're putting fentanyl in coke. Like, isn't that an upper?
They're putting fentanyl in weed to get people to keep coming back. I've heard that on the news too, that they found traces of fentanyl in weed so where they can keep their customers or some shit.
It's crazy, and like you said,
Probably be putting it in 7-Up soon.
It's an instant killer too. I mean, from all the deaths that I see, 95% to 98% is fentanyl overdoses. People aren't even knowing what they're taking. They're taking a pill, and that's what you're saying about drinking. Like, when you're already buzzed and messed up, somebody has some pills, you're just like, cool, I'll take one, whatever this is, and then you don't wake up, and it's scary because when we were younger, like, they didn't have fentanyl pills. They had, pills you could take to get really messed up, but it wasn't going to kill you right away, you know what I mean? You didn't know that was, one drop too much, or however they do fentanyl.
They were all dying off of off Soma or like some sort of muscle relaxer when we
would fall asleep on it.
Yeah, and then when they would drink on it and they'd fall asleep. That was the way. I had a bunch of kids I knew in high school just pass away, and it was all the same thing. It was like
their heart slowed down.
Yeah, and then it just stopped. And I don't even know if that's...
It's sad how much death is prominent in our small community here in Prescott. It's so sad.
100%. I feel like that he has his hand in the fentanyl game, and that's what I call the devil's dandruff, because meth will ruin you, heroin will ruin it all, just turn you into a person you're not.
Yeah, so you did those things, and, you said your mom was upset with you from the actions you took. I know for sure my parents and people I knew were upset with me, but now things are different. Do they see because they see the change in you, right? They see that wasn't coming from who you truly were. They saw that you were influenced by something.
I mean, I've taken enormous steps in my 6 months towards making sure I'm a better person, just for me. You know what I mean? And I get so much feedback, positive feedback, from peers that in the community, there's people that I've called brothers from such a young age, sisters from such a young age, and Big Z, we're so proud of you, dude. Like, I can't believe how far you've come. I hope you just keep going. And there's no other place for me to go. Like, God has chosen what he wants my life to be like, and I've chosen with God where we're going to go, and that's nowhere but a life of living for him.
How does that look like today? Like, what's your normal routine in the sobriety world?
I pray a lot, but I get off track with it. There's no set limit to how much you should and shouldn't pray, you know what I mean? But I don't think I'm the best prayer. Like, what do you mean? There's no contest with it.
You're talking about just with you and God, not publicly,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. No one jumps up and hits a home run every time they pray. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's just, for me, my mind will drift because I don't think I'm diagnosed ADD or nothing, but it's hard for me to sit down and pray. But I pray for my loved ones, and I pray for myself. And I try to stay as selfless as possible with my prayer and my outlook with God, and just, I can't be so selfish and praying for myself. Like it used to be, God, please let me get this car. God, please let me get this girl. God, please let me get this job. Now it's, God, please heal my people. Make sure we're safe. Make sure we're protected. Make sure I have a place to sleep tonight. Make sure I have food in my stomach. It's a whole different outlook.
God isn't Santa Claus. That's like a big misconception, you know. People actually believe like, oh God, please send me a prostitute while my wife's in the hospital or whatever, you know. That was from Eminem, from Criminal.
Yeah.
But he's not like that. You gotta just have a conversation with him and give up control and thank him and just be as positive. And you know, I know I don't get this, God, but I understand. You know, you're working out in some way. You're working this all out, and thank you for what I do have, you know.
Right.
Well, that's the Lord's Prayer. It's, you know, your kingdom come, your will.
Your will.
Done.
Yeah, keyword.
Not my will.
Yeah. And in our addiction, it was for sure, always our will and self-centeredness.
Right.
And now it's turned to where you think about others and you're a part of something. You're a part of everyone else. It's not just you and as the center of the universe. You're actually out there, you know, thinking about others first and, you know, trying to help as much as you can. And, you know, from what you've talked about already on here, we'll put it on TV and online, and a lot of people will see it. And, you know, there's a lot of people that do see this and they don't come up and say, oh, that helped me, or this, you know, thanks for saying this. But indirectly, you'll end up helping a lot of people if you just stay positive and keep trusting him and keep sharing your message.
I truly hope so. That's my goal. I don't believe God saved me for any other reason than to save others. I really don't.
It's true, and like the kids that you're helping out now, who knows how many lives they're going to help out in the future. You know, it's like they say, a snowball effect. The people that you help out could end up mentoring kids when they get older. They look up to you and you help change their life, and now they're going to go do the same. And I truly believe God did save you for a reason.
I do too, and I see that, you know, you looked up to your brother, and, you know, he's saying he felt bad for giving you the drugs. Now you get to change that with these kids. You're able to be the positive role model. Right. And say, you know what, I've gone through it. Trust me, this isn't the life that you want to live anymore, like, or even try to keep living. Because when I was in recovery myself, you know, I'm 33, and there were guys that were your age or maybe a little bit younger in the same house as me, and I wanted to just give them every single thing that I've learned and that what I did right and what I've learned, and to just package it up and say, here you go, take it. And, you know, never use again. Because if I got it at your age, like if I got it when I was, I'd be a totally different person. But I do find serenity in knowing that I think God had this all planned for me, that I had to go through this stuff to get to where I'm at. So it's fortunate that, you know, you still have about 10 years before, you know, you could have got to as bad as it was for me, going to jail and, you know, all that fun shit. But
I definitely have been told that many times.
Take it as a blessing.
Yeah.
Take it as a blessing for sure.
Absolutely. And I've been told that a lot. by a lot of people. If I was your age when I got it, man, I just wish I could be your age when I would have picked it up. And I really want to give a big shout out to people from Elements and the Heights Church for helping me out and making sure that I stayed on track, no matter what. It's been years that I've been going to Wednesday night Bible study, and no judgment ever. Like, I could go out and relapse, come back the next week. Hey, dude, here's a hug, here's some good food, a cup of coffee, and let's get back on our journey to following Jesus and getting clean sober.
Well, that's how Jesus is, right? We mess up all the time. Does he be like, down at us? No, he's like, here, I'm here to help. I got a better life for you. That's what I love about the Bible studies and Elements is like, there ain't no judgment. It doesn't have to have that. It says in the Bible not to judge people. You're not supposed to. Things happen. We don't condone it. We're not going to be like, hey, good job for relapsing, but we're not going to turn our back on you and not want nothing to do with you. We're going to love you and try to help you out.
I remember how excited you were to come back to Bible study after the relapse, after you said you disappeared for a little while, and then you got there, and then you were just happy to see everyone, and that you feel it was 45 days. I remember you said at 45 days. You were like, I could feel something different this time. I promise, guys. And there's no judgment in there. Everyone was happy to see you. And I think that's what God's love does for us is it you could feel that when you're in that community. You could feel that, and we support each other. And I'm going to say this in the straightest way I possibly can. I feel like God's love is like how you have a favorite dog and you can mess up a bunch of stuff, but they just look at you like they always love you and are accepting, and they'll follow you, and they just want to be with you. I feel like it's like that, but infinitely greater. But that's the type of love that God has for us.
I can agree with that. I can get down with that.
Yeah.
I can too, especially with my pug.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's a beautiful son.
I love pugs, man.
And that's the thing,
he brings him in a stroller to Elements. It's fucking
but
cute.
No matter what, he just... if I come home, I'm working all day, and he's super happy to see me. If I'm gone for 5 minutes and come back, he's super happy to see me. And that's how it is, like... When he came back, we're going to be like, hey, you're a dumbass, you shouldn't have done that, but it's never going to turn our back on you, you know what I mean? Like, what if everyone did turn your back on you? Then you're just going to be like, well, whatever, I'll just go use again. So,
might as well go get high.
I feel as addicts, we should always be there and no judgment because we weren't better. It's not like we got sober and never messed up ever again after that, I fell in here, I've fallen there. I had a lot of time clean. I messed up again, and, I'm going to be coming up on 3 years, July 1st. Time flies, and, my life is so much better. I tell people that, and like you said, there's people at Elements, there's people here, there's guys like you, younger guys from the Bible study. They, look up to me, and I'm like, shit, I would hate to be the reason why somebody relapsed, They're like, oh, well, we've seen Sean at the bar drinking beers, he's a stand-up guy. I could try it. And, I just couldn't live with myself. I don't have to stay sober. I'm not on probation anymore. I'm not on any of that. But like you said, people look up to me, and that's what keeps me sober. I love that. I love that I can help people out, and it's just like, I wouldn't want to let you down, Kyle down, anyone down, I love it. And the sobriety brothers and the people that I met in sobriety, I want to change it for the world. They're the best group of dudes I know.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that do look up to you, Sean, and it's just cool to see how much of a dirtbag we were for so long that no one could have ever looked up to us
ever.
And then now we actually have people that admire what we're doing, our actions. They admire our actions, and we set an example, and I think that's important. Just to it doesn't just help them, it helps us a lot because that's accountability.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. I'm accountable now. People are holding me accountable,
responsible.
And they're making you a better person by them. It's a weird relationship, but it's necessary.
But that's about sobriety. I feel like addicts come from all different lifestyle. We all look different. You were in Vegas. I came from Cali. You were out in Arizona. It's all from all over the world. It brings us together, and it's nothing but love, you know. Every meeting, every time we go to Elements, there's people from all over the world, and it's just we show them the same love, you know, and that's what's cool about it. If we go to Vegas and meeting, you know, I'll get shown love out there. It's a family thing. And
man, really, I would just stick with the main things that work for you. Don't take on too much at once. Don't overload your plate. And don't be afraid to ask for help. If you feel like you need some help, just reach out to a friend. Reach out to a family member. Reach out to someone you know that, you know, is potentially doing better than you in your eyes. Or just don't hide in the darkness and the shadows and wait for a result, or wallow in your depression and your sadness. And, you know, it took me a long time to realize I needed some help. And it took me a long time to figure out what to do with the help once I got it. But with Jesus Christ, I really do believe everything is possible. I believe that He's got our backs, and I believe that, you know, we're just living on this earth to spread His word so that we have something to do when we do die. Because that is still our unknown. None of us have died yet. We're still living. But what I don't want to find out is what happens without Jesus. So my advice is just to really find a higher power. Mine's God. I hope yours will be too. And stick with it.
Stick with it. And like you were saying, reach out. If you guys are feeling depressed or whatever and you don't have my phone number, message me on Facebook. I'm always down to message you back and talk to you. And a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. It's like I had to humble myself and ask for help, and hey, people helped me out. It was great, you know. So hit up Smokestack, Kyle, me, any of us from Elements, from Recovcast, for anywhere, any sober people, ask. You know, that's all you got to do.
Thanks for coming on, Zach. You know, you're my boy. You understand that, right?
My boy, man.
You're my boy, and I'm just happy that you're sober here, 6 months. Looking good as ever. And thanks to my co-host Sean.
Hi.
Always a pleasure. Anyways, guys, if you have any questions, email me at recovhubpodcast@gmail.com. You can ask them a question. I'll make sure they get it. They can answer it for you. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. So we'll see you guys later.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, whoop whoop.